tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, November 2nd. Today is All Souls Day, National Ohio Day. Shout out to JD Vance. National Broadcast Traffic Professionals Day. Shout out to all of us, I guess. And it's also National Deviled Egg Day. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms, especially subscribe to us here on YouTube. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us via Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. But without further ado, let's pay a quick bill so we can get right back to the news.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. Coming up first, she's a cannabis business consultant, an industry veteran, a bullshit buster, and a self-proclaimed general overall data bitch, boasting over 13 years in the regulated market, but with deep roots in the legacy industry as well. So much deep roots that she did some time for a cannabis crime. That's right, is none other than the Nicole West.
Good morning, everybody. Happy hump day. My headline's coming out of Alabama, and I've been watching the progression of Alabama, being a little bit taken back because I never really, expected the South to take on cannabis. And as we're watching, Alabama really hasn't. I mean, they're dipping their toes in, but let me tell you what's going on just so that we can all be on the same page. This headline is going to discuss some things that they're trying to do with the regulations, but I definitely have a little bit of insight of what I've been seeing as far as the regulations and real estate are concerned and how fucked Alabama is going to be in the very near future. Well, in Montgomery, Alabama, more than 600 Alabama companies have requested an application to apply for medical marijuana licenses, something that at least 90% of them or more won't ever receive due to the limits of the numbers of licenses that are available. The state's new medical cannabis law passed in May of 2021, establishing the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission, a 14-member board authorized to administer and enforce the laws and the rules relating to medical cannabis that now can be grown and dispensed in Alabama upon receiving a license. The commission has worked diligently to lay the groundwork for new medical cannabis industry in Alabama by developing administrative rules and regulations and obtaining necessary software systems. Oh my God. Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission Director John McMillan said, "We are excited to see the many components of the program come together and to provide not only a business, but a career opportunity to Alabamians," I didn't know that's how you said it, "but also, importantly, we are one step closer to meeting the needs of thousands of residents who suffer from various medical conditions whose symptoms may be alleviated by the proper use of medical cannabis products." Under Alabama's program, registered certified physicians may recommend medical cannabis to patients who have been diagnosed with specific illnesses, including autism spectrum disorder, cancer related to pain or nausea, or cancer-related pain or nausea, Crohn's disease, depression, epilepsy or conditions causing seizures, HIV/AIDS related to nausea or weight loss, panic disorders, Parkinson's disease, persistent nausea, post-traumatic stress disorder, sickle cell anemia, spasticity associated with multiple sclerosis, spinal cord injury, Tourette's syndrome, terminal illness, or conditions using chronic or irretractable pain. The products that will be available are, and this is where I think that they're barely dipping their toes in, oral tablet, capsule, tincture, gelatinous cube. I think they're meaning a gummy, but I think it's just maybe. Gel, oil, cream, patch, suppository, nebulizer, and liquid or oil for an inhaler. Doses of authorized cannabis products are capped at a maximum of 50 milligrams for 90 days. Okay, so let's talk about that, guys. 50 milligrams for 90 days. I know people who take 50 milligrams a day. So the idea that they're capping it at 50 milligrams for 90 days, and it cannot be used as the plant in smoking or edible form. So the gelatinous cube, I'm still a little bit confused about what the fuck are you supposed to do with the gelatinous cube? Are you supposed to boof it or something? But from what I understand, you're probably going to eat it. But according to the commission, 607 requested, 607 requested for applications that were submitted between the application period of September 1st and October 17th. The applications due to the commission by December 30th. To make way for business to apply for a license and integrated facility, cultivator, processor, secure transporter, state testing laboratory, or dispensary. The process is expected to be very competitive due to the limit number of licenses. And while 4 licenses will be awarded for businesses to operate as medical dispensaries, 239 businesses are planning to apply. The commissions will award 12 licenses among 124 businesses that are planning to apply as cultivators. They're going to let 12 people grow all the weed in the entire fucking state. That's crazy. More than 130 businesses are looking to apply for an integrated facility license, which will allow them to cultivate, process, dispense, and sell medical cannabis. So essentially like a micro business. But only 5 licenses will be awarded one of those, reserved specifically for minorities. All of these licenses will have a social equity component, along with some that will be reserved for minority license holders as well, says Shay Garana, the executive director of the Alabama Cannabis Industry Association, which has pushed for medical cannabis legislation. Licenses are expected to be issued mid-2023, and I believe we're going to be standing really firm on the timeline. I don't see anything of any kind varying from the timeline at all. I think we'll be right on course. Greg Gregan said on October 26th at the webinar hosted by Dutchie, a cannabis technology platform. I'm super interested to see how Dutchie plays out in this. Medical cannabis is currently not available in Alabama, and more than 22,000 Georgians authorized to use medical marijuana. Many of them have to get it from states where it's available or illegally in that state. So Georgia lawmakers have authorized the legal possession for up to 20 fluid ounces of cannabis oil with more than 5% THC by a person with qualified medical health issues in 2015. But the state has run into several issues since then, and enhancing the medical program to provide patient access. I just see this being a huge deal long-term for Alabama as far as what they're actually allowing access for. Like the fact that they're going through all of these fucking hoops so that patients can get 50 milligrams for every 90 days is just mind-boggling to me. This program makes New York's original medical program look robust, and New York's original medical program was pathetic. And so for me, looking at this, I'm really concerned about Alabama. I'm also really concerned about the way that they're doing their licensing process. They are requiring for you to actually secure the real estate to apply. So in about 10 months, there's going to be some, 1,200 probably plus, because we're actually only looking at 600 now. They've got another month to apply. Some 1,200 plus pieces of real estate that are just going to get dropped back on the market. And I think that Alabama is not really thinking that from an economic standpoint. But I'm super curious to hear what everyone has to say about the limits and the plans for Alabama. And I'm Nicole West, getting high at 9 with y'all.
I agree with you, Nicole. This is a very inadequate medical program that they are getting ready to enact in Alabama. These limits just don't make any sense. And it pains me why legislators think that they can create these purchase limits without having any type of scientific or medical or retail data to base these claims on.
50 milligrams per 90 days, like
50 milligrams for 90 days. I mean, mind you, here in California, all edible products are
100
packaged in 100 milligrams. So in Alabama, you could only purchase half a pack every 90 days.
You could get 5
And
samples.
it's just, how do they
5
even
samples.
expect any of these people to make any money producing these products in the first place?
Get the actual access to patients, any of it.
This is I think this program is destined to fail from the beginning. But you know who I really want to know their thoughts on this?
Who?
That's right, Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions, because
Oh,
he's from Alabama.
bro.
Himself.
Yes, I want to know what he would say in regards to this, because he's definitely a prohibitionist. He's never been in favor of cannabis.
No,
But
definitely
this is
not.
happening in his home
I don't
state.
give a fuck what he has to say about anything, and I hope he stays where he is.
The problem
the
is ideology.
I think the most
Jason, would
terrifying
you-
moment in my whole like criminal record situation was going through and being like, we're going to talk to Jeff Sessions and see what he has to say. And I'm like, no, because my lawyer, the company's lawyer, grew up next door to Jeff Sessions in Bama. So he was at Sweetleaf, our attorney, Drew Gottlieb, was Jeff Sessions' neighbor like for years, and played like baseball with his son and shit. And he's like, I'm going to call Jeff and see what he has to say. And I'm like, bro, we're all going to fucking prison. Like, shut the fuck up.
And do you remember when all the whacktivists in DC went to Jeff Sessions' office when he was still a sitting senator before he was the attorney general, and thought it would be a good idea to go and smoke weed in his office? Like, what a clown show.
I mean, we've seen that happen a few times, so it's been
not in a senator's office who's getting ready to be the attorney general and has already said that weed is the devil's lettuce.
Sure. But we've seen others go into offices and smoke.
We've seen lots of fucktards, that's for sure.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's such a not a nice word. We got to find a better word for you on that one to
I
talk
don't
shit
know.
about people. We got to find a better one.
I like that word.
Couche-tard. He's a couche-tard.
Oh gosh,
Cushy-tard.
That's an actual person. That's an actual person.
They're all
right,
ideologues.
It's a
They're all
company, I thought.
ideologues. And breaking through with science is like trying to teach a pig to sing. You just don't get anywhere with them. So there's got to be a multi-approach to it in litigation, political. The fact that the camels may have its nose under the tent would be a good thing. But these artificial limits, as you pointed out, Jason, are not scientific. They're pulled out of somebody's ass, and they're driven by their prohibitionist mentality. And it's better than nothing, but it certainly is not workable. The black market will kick their ass all day long.
All day.
Well, we're going to go ahead and segue on that pig vocal coaching and get to the gentleman who has the best pipes on our stage. Every single day, Rico Lamitte brings you that silky smooth voice. He's bringing us badass information and being just the dopest dad on the streets, helping us understand that cannabis and being a big papa go hand in hand. What do you have for us today, Rico?
Appreciate the beautiful introduction there. And I got a little Big Papa reference in my story today, too. So my headline today is coming from Forbes by Robert Hoban. I don't know if you pronounce it Hoban or Hoban. 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 Yeah. The next cannabis industry problem to solve: credit ratings. Credit. What Chuck Schumer's taking all of, if and when Safe Banking Plus finally gets passed. It's also something cannabis companies do not have, but do need to function in a normalized banking environment. One of the most important ingredients in the recipe for building a successful company is business credit. Establishing it can help protect your personal credit, secure competitive loans, get better insurance rates. It can also improve or impress anyone evaluating your business: investors, partners, vendors, clients. Higher your score is, the more likely you'll pay off debt in time, which matters when applying for credit cards, loans, and it's determined for using information from your personal credit reports. Personal and business credit scores are a similar concept with a few key differences. Personal scored on a 300 to 850 point scale, whereas business credit is scored often between 1 and 100. Personal is tied to your social security number. Business is tracked by DBA, name, address, and EIN. A quick Google search won't find anybody's personal credit score, but business credit scores can easily be found through one of the major reporting agencies, Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax, and Experian Business. Establishing business credit's already low on the list of priorities for mainstream startups with a ton on their plate, and usually forgotten until they apply for it and get denied for insurance or loans. So what happens when you're in cannabis? Your business might be legally registered, but were you able to secure a business credit card or a bank account too? Do you work with and pay on time vendors, that report to business credit bureaus? Probably not. The days of wide, green-eyed VCs and angel investors with FOMO dropping massive stacks of cash on unproven weed ideas because YOLO are long gone. Hoban notes in the article, never in history has such little due diligence been conducted on any cogent industry prior to the development of such substantial sums. All that shit's dried up, and the majority of operators left standing are left in an endless hunt for capital. Sure, Safe Banking Plus is aimed to remedy some of these issues, but the importance of business credit will become absolutely essential to raising capital going forward. He goes on to say, despite solid efforts to reduce cash burn, increase sales, and reduce the cost of goods sold, which is counterintuitive given the issues surrounding 280E, cannabis companies currently require significant capital infusion to grow, scale, continue to compete, and in many cases requiring the completion of build-outs and strategic acquisitions. Due to federal illegality, equity markets are closed to cannabis businesses. This is why we have and will continue to see increased numbers of debt financing deals used to source for months and years to come. But with debt financing, credit scores, ratings, and analysis, it's even more important now than ever. Ratings currently are unavailable for U.S. cannabis companies. Lack of visibility into normal metrics tied to mainstream business credit ratings means if you get approved for some kind of funding, it'll probably be at the cost of insurmountable interest rates with virtually no way of paying lenders back in any time, let alone the short term. It's beginning to look like Safe Banking or Safe Banking Plus passing for the majority of cannabis industry is just going to be mo money, mo problems. There's Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street. I love to hear what the rest of the team has to hear about this one. Thank you.
Credit.
So to like refrain from saying too much, I've worked for a couple companies recently that I get to the end of the thing where I'm like, who the fuck gave you $8 million? Like I get mad. Like I know they're my boss. You know what I mean? Like you're writing my paycheck. Like, thank you so much for letting me come to work today and fucking be a part of your robot machine. But then I get through and like I get, behind the curtain. I start looking to see what's actually happening. And usually people bring me in to help like refine the business so they can raise capital, right? But almost everybody's already raised some capital. And so when I get there to like help them like, tidy up things and get the data and the numbers in order and make their P&Ls make sense and make sure that people understand their actual costs, I get there and I'm like, wait, how much money did you borrow? And how much more money do you want now? And wait, who gave that to you? And I had one company I worked for. They had 77 investors on $3.5 million. And I was like,
oh my
God. Yeah, like, I know of a company that has like over 75 investors for like $5 or $10 million.
I've reviewed like, 300 pitch decks for private equity firms. 300 pitch decks have made it across my desk. Probably more by now. The last time I counted, it was like 317. I've approved 3 that I've thought were valuable for loan. Like these people deserve money. I've approved 3 out of 300. But people are just like fucking. I mean,
so those are the 1%ers then, Nicole. Those are the 1%ers.
You have to have a sugar daddy. You have to have a sugar daddy in this industry. And if your sugar daddy,
I feel like a trust fund works better, honestly.
If I could just chime in, this is Roz. This is really serious topic. I mean, and I know you guys are joking around and we're talking about investors, but I'm someone that's, as a Black woman, going and looking for investor dollars, and I got so I get so tired of as white men, and I'm just be really honest, who really diminish these social equity and minority business owners and make you feel like crap when you have a plan and they want you to do hoops in order to go after, to have them invest in your company. And I think this article is so important that we need to be educating these operators right now who are coming from minority communities, business communities, social equity, who have notoriously had issues with business credit, understanding how to create it. Because if we don't have this conversation, if we don't provide some education and some guidelines, what's going to happen is next is going to be, oh, we have access to capital, but you don't have the business credit. It's always something. And I just want to really level set the importance of this article and how read the tea leaves, everybody, and see what's happening. And shame on those investors out there who literally last night I had an investor say, well, no, I want to invest in what you're doing, but if you come and do business with me in this state and bastardize your brand, I'll write you a check and you can put hemp on your brand and you can buy the flower from me and I'll invest in you. So basically I'm going to take money from you that you then want me to buy product from you,
feeds them,
help sell it in the retail, and then pay you back the loan that you gave me in order to buy product from you. It's bullshit.
That sounds like a Ponzi scheme, Roz.
Roz, I will echo what you said in that every company I've ever worked for that I've looked at them and been like, who the fuck gave you money? It's been some entitled white dude. Straight the fuck up. Not one time has it not been some entitled white dude at the top that somebody just like wrote him a check and was like, here. And I'm like, how did you do? A couple times it's their dad or like a family member or something. But like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all about the fact that like
and this guy
you come in with a real business plan and you're not one of the like the crew.
Black
you're not
women
one of the people
are at the lowest end of the range there. Yeah, the lowest end of the range is toughest for you guys. So I definitely
I'm the smartest. I will run circles around half these goddamn men. I have background. I have experience. I worked 10 years in pharma as a brand manager, as a sales marketing director, as a regional marketing director, have launched brands, worked with distributors, a whole 9 yards, have all this back, history of experience. And you get marginalized in these conversations. And I just feel bad because I'm strong enough to say, fuck you, and I'll move on. But I just feel bad for those people that feel so like I got to get this money, and you end up, just putting yourself out there and having to negotiate on things that you shouldn't have to negotiate on, and that you should. Like this guy said to me, well, I kind of owe you one. I'm like, don't invest in me because you owe me. Invest in me because you believe Roz can deliver. Because people don't invest. Their ideas ain't that much different than any other idea. It's the person who's executing to make sure that you go, I believe in you and I want to invest in you because I believe that you will get my money back in a return. And that's what we're
and the amount of shotgun weddings, Roz, that happen like that because what you're saying, where people get put into a situation where they're just like, fuck, I really need this money. I need this money so bad. And then they get put into a situation where somebody's scummy and says some things like that. And they're just like, well, this is the money that I got offered. So this is the money I take. And then, in 2 years, they are upside down and they're getting leveraged out of their own business, and you're 100% right on that.
I've seen that happen so many times.
I have multiple clients who were social equity, local residents that get these opportunities. And every one of them, when I step in the case, these rich white boys from down here in Southern California shit themselves because I am not happy with the way they're set up. They'll put a straw man out as this equity. They're typically women of color. We need you to be the face of this project. They tell everybody, oh, you own 51% of this. But when you read the details of the contract, the sugar daddy is Harvey Weinstein, and he's going to fuck you every day and take all this away. I call it dimes and dollars. They'll give you dimes, some money to make it seem like it's good. The dollars, a long-term investment, you never get to touch that. You're just not part of that.
It's the bait. It's the baiting of the carrot, right? It's the carrot and switch, the bait and switch trick, right? So hey, I'm gonna give you this little bit right now, and I just had a conversation with someone. She was like, well, he promised that he was going to invest. I said, fuck him. You know what? What I'm not going to do is that you're not going to have me out here tricking and making it feel like I got to go and do flips and do a big old dog and pony show for you to invest in me. I believe in me more than you do. And I'm not going to beg you to invest in me and my brand. I will find you elsewhere.
Tell him, Roz.
When I tell you guys, I'm so pissed because I had this conversation last night with an investor and then this morning. But when I tell you guys that it's real out here, but this article, Rico, and let me calm down, that you're bringing out is something that we need to read the tea leaves, and that we are going to have other barriers that are going to be put in place. So whatever you need to do to build your business credit now, start doing it. So thank you.
And I would also thank you for giving us your perspective on that, especially as a Black woman, Roz. It's so important for everybody out there. But also, like, this is why I was saying, fuck safe banking. We need to talk about reparations because there's other things that we need to get right before the whole banking conversation. And even if the structure's there, the framework is there that can help us out. Like, if you can't get secured for financing, you're dead in the water. We're in a hyperinflationary period in America, and mainstream businesses are having trouble staying afloat. So if you're a broke ass BIPOC run company, good luck.
But, you know,
It's
Rick,
another
but Rico,
fucking-
when we talk about reparations, I get it, and that's a social aspect of, I get that part. But I'm a businesswoman, and right now I'm in 30 stores in Massachusetts in 4 weeks. I have 7 stores about to come online in Pennsylvania. I just signed a deal in Nevada. I have another 12 stores coming online in Ohio. I need money. I don't need reparations. I need money. I'm a businesswoman. I will take your money and I will make money. We're in 30 dispensaries off of just Roz and sweat and tears in my own funding, my own company. It's bullshit.
Get it, Ross.
Roz,
Get it,
I got
Ross.
nothing but love and support for you, specifically you and everybody else who has made it through the ranks, especially as equity companies, and are still in that process. Like my cries of help for people on the reparation side, that's for people who are not in that process, and people who thinking that when they see, oh, safe banking is going to be an opportunity, like it's not, because mainstream America does not give us loans, period. So when we enter the mainstream category with banking, it's going to be even fucking worse. So like props to you and everybody else. And when I say that, it does not apply to Black and brown folks who have already been through that or who are on the finish line. Like, yeah, it can help them out, but everybody else, like, it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. But
all
good story.
Thank you. Thank you. Much love for that, Roz. I love that, and we do have to keep on going here. Man, get me all worked up here and feeling my own feelings. Up next, it's the longest continuously operating retailer in the industry, and he's also got an affinity for smoking the best weed in the world. He's known to the Mar-a-Lago staff as Gucci Blanco, the hustlers in Detroit as White Gucci, and anyone in West Hollywood considering cannabis tourism know him as El Presidente. Y'all know who it is, Jason Beck.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Rico. Thank you so much for that awesome introduction. Today, my story comes out of where, we start the show at high at 9 here on the West Coast and high noon on the East Coast. But where my story is out of today, it's actually 6 a.m. out there in Hawaii. That's right. Then they're talking about legalizing cannabis would generate an additional $50 million in state tax revenues. The state tax department projects $50 million in revenue to Hawaii's government coffers annually if cannabis was legalized for adults without a recommendation. But dispensary operators think it would bring in a lot of money also. As of September 30th, there were 33,725 patients in Hawaii who have valid medical cannabis cards. There are 8 licensed dispensaries across the state. They include the Aloha Green Apothecary on King Street. And in a quote, they say, we're really only catering to about 8,000 to 9,000 patients, said Tai Chang, president of Aloha Green Apothecary. And those patient numbers have increased over the last years, especially during the pandemic. And we've seen revenue double from 2 years ago. Chang is hoping a new administration ushers in a new era. In a quote, he says, I think there's real positive mood right now when it comes to the adult use cannabis with the recent pardoning by President Biden on federal drug charges, said Chang. The state tax report was reported this week to the Dual Use of Cannabis Task Force, which was created by Governor David Elge and the state legislature to study the potential impacts of cannabis legalization. According to the tax department, the medical cannabis industry generated around $2.5 million in taxes in this last fiscal year. But they predict that legalizing cannabis would bring in up to $50 million in tax revenue, said State Representative Ryan Yamain, who is on the task force, said that's not enough. Well, I guess that's because the price of gas is so high in Hawaii that you guys can't get around all the islands for $50 million to enforce. But nonetheless, I digress and continue. That is difficult to use in order to establish a new program, said Yamain. Hire employees, do monitoring, do all the different aspects of adult recreational use with $50 million annually, he says. Yamain said the task force is still gathering information that will be reported back to lawmakers. There's going to be a number of opportunities for the general public to chime in, testify for or against, said Yamain, but what we wanted was to dispel some of the myths and find out what the facts were. Some 19 other states have legalized marijuana for adult use without a state permit, and the industry is hopeful Hawaii will be next. In a quote, they say, "We should all stay tuned, and we should be prepared for the public to provide input and comment," said Randy Gantz, director of the Hawaii Cannabis Industry Association. He says, "This is the closest Hawaii has ever been to legalizing cannabis in the history of our state. The task force is also considering a social impacts and how legalization would impact illegal drug sales." I find it interesting that they say the task force is considering how social impacts and how legalization would impact illegal drug sales. But it's held 9 public meetings so far, and the next one is November 14th at the Hawaii State Art Museum. Well, I'll just tell you what, right now, Hawaii, if you can't regulate on cannabis with $50 million, then you need to get some new people in there to show you how to spend the money, because that is just utter ridiculous. And this is Jason Beck reporting for High at 9 News. What do you think, Nicole? Is $50 million enough to regulate cannabis in Hawaii?
No, 100% no.
Really?
Not even
Why?
close. Well, first of all, the ability to get to all of those islands, that is my first thought, right?
First of all, you buy a little puddle hopper, all right, with the state. So let's just call that like $1 million, all right, because you get probably a boat and a puddle hopper to where the people can travel the island to island. So that's $1 million spent out of your $50 million
you want
annual
a boat
budget.
And a plane? You want a boat and a plane and a plane? $2 million.
All right, fine, $2 million. All right, I guess they're going to be
rolling
on a yacht.
What about the salaries?
Okay. And we need you're looking at probably easily in order to maintain that state, you're looking at least 25 to 35 staff members that end up, when you look at the big picture, right? You have five.
This is why I'm talking about this. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's say 35 staff members. And what's the budget? What's the length of the budget?
$50 million a year. $50 million a year, yearly. That's enough. That's enough money to regulate.
Government money, no.
$5 million.
How many licenses?
Roz, you think they need an extra $15 million in order to pull this off?
I think they need a little more.
Not really, but
I need my 1% consulting fee on that too.
Listen,
yeah.
Nicole Bafong is just literally just coming back from Hawaii. I sent her out there to work with May, who is our state director out there. So they actually did a town hall meeting, met with legislators about this issue, and specifically about social equity and how that's going to play out for Hawaii. So I don't know if she's in the audience, but she may be able to give you some intel.
I don't know. I just feel like $50 million is definitely enough money.
So
it may not be enough money in a Democrat-controlled government, though.
But you've never represented cops before, Jason, or been inside law enforcement. They're worse than the people on the side of the road with 5 supervisors and one guy with a damn shotgun.
We're outsourcing a bunch of different governments in this process too. You have to understand, cannabis is not cannabis, right? You're looking at especially in a place like Hawaii, you're looking at the Fish and Wildlife and the Department of Agriculture being in deep, right? Because you're talking about economic.
No, Coast Guard.
That's another one, but no, the biggest thing in Hawaii is protecting Hawaii. That is the most important thing to Hawaiians.
Yes, that's correct.
Department of Agriculture.
Department of Agriculture, okay? Yes. That's why they have the agriculture inspections when you come in and leave Hawaii.
Big fucking deal,
yes,
right?
Big deal, yes.
You're bringing those people in.
I agree.
You're probably right. We're bringing Coast Guard in. The amount of other government agencies is the reason why I say 50 million is a low number. That's all.
I'm just saying, for the government.
If you fly over the triangle, Jason, in October and you see green, it's weed. You fly over Hawaii, everything's green. So you just can't do these aerial surveys. You got people on the ground. My God, that
walking
and then
around
it's an ideological driven enforcement action.
I think $50 million is enough for it to start.
I think it's enough for it to start.
It'll get more money as it goes up. Plus, I'm sure they can impose some type of out-of-state tax into Hawaii that they do, because they charge everything up that is produced in Hawaii anyway. So, I'm sure they'll be able to make up the money. What's that, Ross? Go ahead, Nicole.
Quick fact.
Yes.
At the meeting on Monday, the task force meeting where May, our state director, and I made public comment, there were some numbers thrown around by one of the doctors that is on the task force, and those numbers, because they talked about taxes. There's 30,000 patients right now registered in the state of Hawaii.
Yes,
only
33,000.
10,000 of them go into dispensaries to purchase actual cannabis in the regulated market. And that tax revenue for the fiscal year 2021
$2.5 million. $2.5 million.
$2 million.
No, 2.5. 2.5.
Right. And so if they even if just a third of their patients were actually buying in the regulated market, they open it up to adult use, that number can grow exponentially. And so they are looking at this as the whole picture of, if they do legalize adult use, that there are going to be potentially a lot of money that can be made for the state of Hawaii. But the problem is their medical program is not where it should be. Like right now, the biggest operator on the state island of Oahu, that is a co-op type of situation, taking care of patients, is giving medicine to thousands of patients that are not included in that tax revenue. And so they're trying to figure out through their medical program how that they can increase this tax revenue, but really they need to be catering to the medical patients and strengthening their medical program before they consider adult use.
And Nicole, a quick question. Is Hawaii seeing an uptick of non-white owned businesses on the legal side? I know last time we visited a big Hawaiian story, we had somebody actually chip in from the audience saying that there are none.
There are no natives that own. The people with the revenue, with the money in Hawaii to open and operate a dispensary are either white or Asian, Chinese.
In Kauai,
or Japanese.
The one that you guys are talking about on this headline is Aloha Green, but Green
Yes.
Aloha in Kauai is owned by a native. I've worked with them. They were a client of mine, but it is owned by a native Hawaiian. His name's Justin.
So there is one.
I mean, I know there's one. I know there's one.
All right, that's good.
They did get
know there's
investment
one.
money from Have a Heart early on, but
and that's what I was going to say. The money that they're getting is coming from outside. It's coming.
I mean, there's
from
not a ton of money. Unfortunately,
corporate.
there's not a ton of money in Hawaii to be invested. So like the capital has to come from somewhere. There's like 3 major Hawaiian families that could invest in you.
Yes.
In the whole
right.
fucking place.
That's true.
And their families. And a lot of them are very conservative. So like actual capital available on that island is very fucking limited. And I talked to Justin about that. I was like, why didn't you go locally? He's like, there's no money in my fucking island. He's like, if there was money here, we would find it, but there isn't any. He's like, my family's been here our whole fucking lives, for like as far back as they can like track. And he's like, especially in Kauai. Kauai is the most beautiful place in the fucking world, but there's no money there unless you're like apparently
It's a big shout
Mark
out to
Zuckerberg owns a house there now.
It's a big shout out.
And the legacy operators there, which are the native people or the native Hawaiians, are the majority of the legacy operators on Kona and on Hawaii. They don't want to be a part of the legacy of the legal industry at all. They want to be left alone to grow their cannabis like they've been doing for generations. And they want to keep providing the medicine that they have been providing to the community in the same way that they've been doing it. So even if they go adult use, even if adult use happens, they're not going to join the legal market at all.
So
there's going to be big Trapper Island out there in Hawaii. I can't wait for that show.
I definitely want to drop this one last little bit. When I was out there speaking at a conference a few years back, what was the original heir to the kingdom of Hawaii? He's a part of the island that is natives only, literally comes to this event and told all the people there, if you guys want to have the respect of the island, you'll bank with our cryptocurrency. And it was the most fucking gangster shit I ever seen in my life. I was like, hell yeah. Like this guy's showing up and he's like, this is my fucking island. Like, what do you think you're doing here? And I was like,
go buy some
Moana coin.
We're not just selling pineapples.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and hop to our disclaimer after that. Thank you guys so much. Great story. Super interesting to talk about Hawaii. And I hope that they do get adult use because, man, that will make it a lot easier bag when you go travel the islands. So the thoughts and opinions and general shade thrown on the High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers, not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, or speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in a country, area, territory, or its authorities. Views expressed in this room do not establish fiduciary relationships. Responses do not imply, constitute endorsement of expression of us or any opinion whatsoever or any speaker on stage. If you're an easily offended person, the show is probably not for you. Also, maybe it's time for a vacation.
Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX. Located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you'd like to get high at 9 for 10% off your full order. Coming up next, she's a Florida-based entrepreneurial boss lady leading the charge for the ultimate cannabis lifestyle brand, Black Buddha Cannabis. Also the founder and CEO of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. Coming up next is none other than the Roz McCarthy.
What's going on, Jason family? I have calmed down. I have taken a little happy pill. I'm in the zone. I'm a little nasally. I'm suffering, getting over a cold, but I got a great story that's very interesting. And I just wanted to share this with you guys. So I'm going to be very short because I got to run off to another event. But this is coming out of Vermont. And you guys, Vermont is on fire. So this is from WCAX, and it's Vermont Cannabis Marketplace spurring ancillary business growth. Let me give you the background of this. Vermont just recently opened up their adult market and legalized, and they are having a supply issue. There's no supplies on the shelf. So North Springfield, Vermont. Vermont's new cannabis retail market has been operating for 1 month, and regulators have so far approved more than a dozen retail licenses. As the market grows, businesses connected to the marketplace are also growing. As growers around the region are harvesting cannabis this fall, storage of the product has become crucial to maintain a steady supply from stores. And business owners of North Springfield say they have just the right product for the region's growing industry. So these are units for home use. We have shipped thousands of them worldwide. This is kind of interesting. The concept is simple. The wet flower goes in, and in 8 days, the dried product is ready to be consumed. The units regulate dew point and can also store cannabis for longer periods. Settlement and his wife got into the cannabis market 4 years ago after spending years in the cheese and meat curing industry. And what is interesting, the cannabis flower cures over time. It improves with time. So now you can start thinking about cannabis like you would with wine or cheese that gets better with time. That is if it's stored properly. He says over drying can drastically decrease quality. Cannabis can also mold and wilt. And the region is about to get an influx of flower as more than 200 licensed growers harvest their crops. Right now, there's only 16 retail licenses that have been approved across the region. We've had flower in a box for 2 years, and it still comes out sticky and supple. He said the Vermont dry and cure technologies can scale up to dry and store hundreds of pounds of cannabis at a time, making it a market within a market. It's going to drive innovation, and people are going to find various elements to this market and really monopolize and monetize those, says James Pepper with the state's Cannabis Control Board. He says long-term storage is key for growers, especially outdoor growers who only have 1 or 2 harvests a year and need to provide a steady supply. So I'll end right here. Has anybody on this call, anybody that's with the group, have you ever heard of basically a curing system that you put in people's home? So basically they get the flower from the grower, and they're now being able to actually cure their flower at home and then be able to, partake at their leisure. I'm Roz McCarthy signing off for High News at 9. Would love to hear your thoughts.
I mean, I've had to take weed from people that cultivated it before because they didn't have a clue on how to grow it just to save the weed. So yes, I have had that happen to me in the past, Roz.
The logistics of taking it from a farm and while it's still wet and then getting it to this machine is just so not sound.
It's a nightmare. It's a logistical nightmare.
These machines have value in the way of the technology being used at scale. I've seen a few facilities utilize this kind of technology in like large rooms, but it really wouldn't make any sense for a user, like a consumer, to have this, and then for a farmer just to give them wet weed. There's just too many variables, and the idea when you're having that process is like you need to get it to going to that drying process ASAP the moment that shit gets chopped down.
Yes,
because the microbials are starting to grow at that moment. So you don't have time for it to go from your farm upstate Vermont to someone's home. There's not enough time for that, and the only way that you would be able to do that would be to freeze it. And at that point, what the fuck are you doing?
So it doesn't sound like it's metrically compliant either.
Business. I see an opportunity for a business to come in there with trucks or something, some kind of transport business to come in there as a middleman to.
No, it's not realistic, bro.
What about the children? Wait a second. What about the children, Rico?
Yeah, what about
trucks
the children,
driving around with weed in it? We can't have that.
Yeah, that's on the road, bro. What if they crash into a
don't have children
school bus?
There's no children in Vermont.
Stop. Real question. Stop. Ross asking a real question, guys. What was that, Ross?
Yeah. Thanks, Nicole. So what do you do when you have suppliers that are cultivating and then they don't, and it's outdoor grow, right? And then they don't have the room and they have the issue with the weather and with the rain and the mold or whatever. So it sounds
They
like
shouldn't be growing all that weed outdoors because the logistics
'Cause
of
it's
getting it
boof
down is a
anyway.
problem. No, the logistics of getting it down. The biggest problem that most growers are going into, and I will say this, and I will look you all in your eyes, none of you are preparing for the weed to come down. You're just preparing for the weed to grow. And that's what happens over and over and over again, is they don't plan their dry space or their cure rooms correctly to the acreage or the square footage that they're building out. And they don't understand cubic versus square in mathematical of going up versus going across. And that happens over and over and over again. So in these situations, the best answer, in my opinion, would be to freeze all of it, fucking blast that shit and turn it into concentrate and make edibles out of it. Like, that's the best answer for products like
The raw
that.
garden model.
Yeah, freeze it. Straight into a fucking freezer. Get a gang of freezers, chuck it, bucket, fast freeze. That's the best answer.
Good stuff. Thank you, Nicole.
I mean, it's all boof anyway.
Those little machines, though, would be cool for a home grower. I think that those little machines would be really cool for a home grower, for somebody that's trying to like grow their own stuff and they don't have like all of the like it all being in one place, because you do have to have strong environmental controls, right? So you can't like blast out your fucking garage with an environmental control.
I mean, I think you know who these companies
it's like a wine box, you know?
No, this company, you know who they need to do? They need to partner up with Phototron. And so you buy a Phototron and you buy this at the same time, and you have the whole 2-in-1 thing. The whole 2-in-1 thing. It's all one big gimmick.
Wow, way to date yourself. Way to date yourself. Phototron.
It's true. It's true. Yes.
I think it's time to move on that story. Roz, we love you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Roz.
It's a great story. I'll see you guys next week. Love you guys.
Have a good day. Bye.
Everybody, I think everybody should be looking at opportunities like this for innovation. Period. And speaking of,
that's why they should partner with Phototron, bro.
Phototron of the future. We're going back to the future. And speaking of innovation, our next correspondent is the CMO of industry-focused event ticketing and promotion platform that changed the game for the better when Eventbrite was literally and figuratively not wanting any of that smoke. Event High. Look out for them. But also, she's the co-host and founder of groundbreaking professional women in cannabis networking series Blunt Brunch. And I'm sure that she will be on stage with us to bless us with her presence. It's Adelia Carrillo.
Good morning. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Okay, today's article. 100 applications submitted for cannabis lounges in Nevada. This was written by News 3 Las Vegas. So Nevada cannabis regulators say they received 100 applications for the state's first ever cannabis consumption lounge license during a short submission window last month. There was a 10-day window for applications, which ran from October 14th to the 27th. The Cannabis Compliance Board says a complete application includes a successful submission and correct administrative processing fee. Now, of these 100 applications, 80 are for independent lounges, with 30 of those which were submitted as social equity applicants, according to the Cannabis Compliance Board. The other 20 are for retail lounges, meaning the lounge would be attached to a cannabis retail location. State officials did not cap the number of consumption lounge licenses for retailers, so all 20 could potentially get awarded. Now, based on the number of submissions for two different application types, retail and independent, and on the parameters outlined in the state law, the CCB officials can now issue up to 40 licenses for consumption lounges. So they're looking at 20 for retail, 20 for independent. With the current numbers, this means at least 60 applicants will be left out. Now, per state law, it also said in this article that the CCB officials may issue 20 independent licenses, half of which are, that's actually repeated, never mind. I'm going to jump really quick to the board. Says it will review all applications to see if they meet necessary requirements. There's also going to be 2 random drawings in early December to determine which applicants will be licensed. Also, some quotes from this article. Now, when it comes to lounges at existing dispensaries, the CCB said there is no competitive selection process required. Upon receiving final inspection, licensure, and approval by the board, retail cannabis consumption lounges may open. I'm not sure if those that are tuning in remember, but the CCB had already approved regulations for cannabis lounges over in the summer, which did state that these businesses could also possibly look into allowing couple cannabis with yoga, serving infused food, offering THC-aided massage therapy, or incorporating cannabis in other ways. And the lounges, again, are expected to be open in 2023. It says cannabis lounges have been cleared to set up in the city of Las Vegas and unincorporated Clark County. So currently, North Las Vegas, Henderson, Mesquite, and Boulder City have all opted out for allowing the lounges, according to Las Vegas's city attorney. So with that being said, this is Adelia. I'm reporting live on the High at 9 News Hour. I'd love to hear from our correspondents. Are you surprised there were only 100 applications? Did you expect more or less?
Yes.
No,
Good chance.
no, I did not expect more.
50-50 chance.
No.
I think it's interesting that there was only 100 of those, but there were 600 applications to sell fucking booth packs in Alabama. Like the money to be made in a lounge though is a struggle bus. That's the biggest issue. And Vegas likes its money. Vegas likes to turn shit. When we talk about restaurants or bars, everything, when you talk about these numbers, are based on how many turns on that chair can you get, right? Weed people don't be turning. We be sitting and smoking for long periods of time. So $150 eighth, right, could get somebody several hours. You have to have like the artistry has like a 90-minute limit, and they come like kick you out of your fucking seat. It doesn't even matter how much money you spent. And like, that's just not Vegas. So I think like a lot of people are kind of lost as the experience that they're supposed to provide. It's like, okay, so we talk about the drinks becoming a thing. And I think Vegas is a place that drinks would happen more, but like 2 or 3 drinks and now you're fucking ready to go take a nap. So like 2 or 3 drinks at the bar, you're turning up, you're going and fucking to the
club, fucking strip clubs. Oh yeah.
That's where I was gonna go with my question. Was like, are other things going to be allowed in these lounges?
No.
Well, hold on, but Nevada, Nevada has removed cannabis from the scheduled drug list.
Yeah, but the regulations in regards to it doesn't matter.
Like that one, Enrico.
Still their state regs, so they'd have to change their state regs because of the ability to have alcohol in the same place.
We have Nicole Buffong from Las Vegas to tell us. Go ahead, Nicole. What do you have to say about this?
You're not going to be allowed to sell alcohol beverages inside of the consumption lounges. They have to stay separate.
What's going
to be interesting though is
I was going to say, can you have like a window there with a business like adjacent?
No.
So what's going to be interesting is Planet 13 has several locations inside of their dispensary. So next door to where the consumption lounge is, they will be able to sell alcohol. But these other locations won't be able to do that because they're not set up in that way.
But even doing that, Nicole, how many people are going to fucking puke on the floor at Planet 13? Like, there has to be like a person that's full-time job. Is
I would call that the crossfade lounge. The crossfade lounge that would fucking crush out there.
More revenue. That's more revenue.
And also in regards to the amount of people that applied for these lounges, you have to submit a diversity plan along with your application. And from our understanding, a lot of people reached out to M4MM for help with that diversity plan because it was mandatory. You had to submit one. And a lot of these dispensaries did not know how to do that. They didn't understand the language behind what a diversity plan meant. Wow. And so I think that's why only about half of them. Also, the cost of, so if you want to be a consumption lounge that it allows combustion or smoking, you have to redo your whole ventilation system. A place like Planet 13, from my understanding, would have had to spend about $500,000 just to put a new ventilation system on top of their building for a very small space inside of their building to allow consumption to happen there. So a lot of these dispensaries were turned off.
Thank you so much for that insight on that. No, I was just saying thank you so much for your insight on that. We got to hop to our last correspondent. We have Dale coming up next. Good. Thank you, Adelia, for that story. Definitely interesting, and we want to keep following Las Vegas. Dale Schaefer, 35 years practicing an attorney with 23 years in the California cannabis space specifically. Dale is a former member of Club Fed, serving 52 months for cultivation and intent to distribute to a handful of terminally ill patients. He started his cannabis adventure as the co-owner of the California Medical Research Center and is now the founding partner of Armada Law Corp. Dale, what do you have for us today?
Well, the headline comes out of Law 360, the cannabis attorneys who take the DEA to court. And what runs through this is my experience with the DEA, how this was set up, how litigation has to be coupled with political action to try and solve these problems. And for the guys on the line that know about Sue Sisley, it involves Sue Sisley and her battle with the DEA to be able to get her hands on something other than that bullshit government swag they make you use for these studies. So they went to court and they had to butt heads with the DEA for years to be able to do this. And I'm old enough, believe it or not, to have been in high school when the Controlled Substances Act was passed, and also when Tim Leary blew the old Marijuana Tax Act out of the sky here. And so the DEA was set up very soon after the Controlled Substances Act was passed, and they were ceded the authority to schedule, reschedule, and deschedule drugs. So when I'm asked, well, why can't the president just, change the scheduling here? You got to back up a little bit and take a look at the administrative law vortex that the Congress in 1970 threw all this into. I have been in and around litigation in federal court trying to get a court to pay attention to medical use of cannabis and take it out of Schedule 1. And all you get to talk about is, well, the DEA won't sign off on this application before we can go to the next application phase. And so you have a big battle. The experts come in. The judge goes, yeah, DEA, you're a bad boy. Give them this application granted. Go to the next one. It's been a horseshit vortex of administrative law that never gets anywhere. Now, technically, the president could remove this by executive action, but it would be immediately challenged in the court as outside his authority. The Congress can obviously change it, but the Congress is a clusterfuck. They can't get anything out of Congress right now. And the DEA, which is a law enforcement agency, is in charge of rescheduling, which is an administrative regulatory nightmare. That if you've been in California watching these regulations go, just tumble around, you never get anything done that way. So what this article stands for is that you have to be able to litigate, but you've got to pick the right targets to litigate, but you've got to couple that with political action. Now, there is action in Congress right now, and the fight over banking and the fight over 280E will go away immediately if the scheduling is changed, and someone could be a lawful grower of this or a manufacturer. But that doesn't fix the problem, because none of us on this call, anybody I know listening, is going to be able to qualify for getting a Schedule 3 or Schedule 4 controlled substances manufacturing permit. They're just not going to allow it. So descheduling, I think, makes the most sense here. But that, I don't see that happening with this Congress we have right now, because politics is just butting heads rather than looking for how you can bring red and blue people together like weed and go, let's solve this problem, not as red or blue, but we're weed consumers and we want people going to jail or being involved in this federal nonsense, because the federal government, as I can tell you, when they come after you, they ain't there to slap you on the wrist. They're there to kick your ass. Okay. And you just cannot move forward in the face of the federal government wanting to do anything. But as we've seen, the chief executive, starting with Obama, has issued guidelines of DOJ, do not enforce this. We have, and Jason, Dana Rohrabacher authored a bill way back. You can't spend a nickel. The DOJ can't spend a nickel to enforce the Controlled Substance Act if what the activity is comporting with state law. Now, that's still evolving, but this is a nightmare, okay? And the president just can't do what people are asking him to do. The DEA will not do it. And the Congress, they can't find their ass with both hands. So this is a theme we'll talk about multiple times as people think, oh, let's just have the president reschedule. He promised to reschedule it. Well, any president that promises you that's full of shit. They're lying to you. They're just not going to do it.
You're 100%
so that's my
right.
take.
A deschedule or bust.
Yeah, exactly. The reality is that rescheduling to any number that you want, 2 through 5, whatever, even pick some other ones, who cares, would have dire consequences for the cannabis industry, because the FDA regulates everything by the molecule as opposed to the substance, and they already have drug preclusion on THC for Marinol, and they already have drug preclusion on CBD for Epidiolex. So therefore, because of the Food, Drugs, and Cosmetic Act also would be involved in that, every single product across all 50 states would all be deemed illicit product. because none of them would be able to pass a FDA regulation guideline to make that product a legal product.
Big shout out to Sue Sisley, though, for being such a fucking champion of this.
She's got nuts this big, doesn't she?
I mean, year after year after year. Her between her and Rachel Gillette sued the IRS and sued the DEA. I'm like, fuck, like these women. I mean, these women are just really stepping up and doing some amazing things. Resisting the powers that be that are absolutely unrealistic and unfair to the people that need access to cannabis. So super excited to see how this actually shakes out, and I hope everyone support what they're doing. Support Sue's mission.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag resist. For real.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Here we go.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Resist bad weed and just grow indoor.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Who's doing the outro today? It's not on the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this
Rico,
one.
you have the outro, Rico.
I can grab it. All right.
That's what it says.
I'm just gonna sit here in silence.
Oh,
that's what it says. Rico it says you have the outro.
Yep. I mean, I could do it if you. So thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is a developing cannabis industry. Thank you to the haters for still talking about us. Huge thank you to True Classic and LAXCC for helping us keep the lights on, and to our correspondents for being amazing, and to Cannabis for giving us a reason to do this. And huge shout out to 3 is 4 for helping us create a space in this cannabis miniverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us.
Bye.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.